Welcome to Channel 17, the Town of Colonie Government Channel.
Hi, I'm Supervisor Paula Mahan, and welcome to Colonie Connect. Today, my special guests are Craig Blair, our Comptroller in the town, and also his assistant, Kelsey. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you very much. We're happy to be here.
We are here today to talk about and give an overview of the budget process and the budget presentation that we actually did at our public hearing on our budget, which was held about
November 4th.
November 4th, okay. And everything worked out very well. We had some good comments from the audience, and so we were able to answer questions that came up, which was great, because sometimes we get some questions that are a little out of the ordinary, and we've got to come back and let people know what we found out. But this year, everyone seemed to be, pretty well understanding of the budget itself. And I think part of that was because of the PowerPoint presentation we did. And that's what I'd like to do today for our audience. I'd like to go through the PowerPoint presentation. It is on our website, but I thought as we go through it, if there are some comments that you'd like to add to make it even a little more clear for our listeners, I thought that might be helpful.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So just as an overview, our budget worksheets, we issued them to our departments back in May, and we actually asked our department heads to submit budgets that were cost-effective, but the main focus was to be able to actually look at where the money was being spent, to save as much as we could, but to maintain a high-level quality of services, which I think we've accomplished. We've been able to put together a budget that not only is going to be helpful down the road, because we've, again, this year cut out more waste. I think the total was about $1.46 million.
Yes, correct.
That was cut out of this year's budget. And so I think, all in all, everything worked out well there. We had our budget review committee, which was composed of myself and Craig.
Myself, Chris. We had Jack Cunningham, Commissioner of the Department of Public Works, Police Chief Steve Hyder, our Management Information Director Lisa Travis, and Town Board Member Dan Hornick.
Yes.
And as you said, we started this process in May, much earlier than you're required to, which is usually around September. And we spent our summer months, June through October, meeting with the department heads, going through their budgets, and compiling up what we thought would be a tentative budget for the town board.
Right. And that tentative budget has to be presented to the town board by a specific date, and
by
I believe
September 30th.
Okay, and we actually presented it. It was presented to us on September 29th.
Yes.
So you were a day early.
Yep.
So that's great. We did have, as we stated a few minutes ago, we had our public hearing on November 4th, and we always build in extra time if we need it. And as I said, this year we were able to answer everyone's questions, and it worked out well. What is actually the cutoff date that we need to have the budget passed by?
The GFOA, which is the Government Finance Officers Association, says it's November 20th.
Okay.
Okay. You can always do anything a little bit earlier.
That's their recommendation.
That's the recommendation, is November 20th.
So we followed our timeline quite well. We were able to stay, within the parameters of the schedule that we're given, and actually we were ahead of schedule. So, and that a lot of credit goes also to all of the department heads that worked so diligently with our budget committee to get to the point that we needed to get to.
And as you said, by doing it on the 4th, it gives us another town board meeting 2 weeks. If there were some issues that we had to make some changes to, it gave us the time frame in there to make those changes
Right.
and bring it back to the town board.
Right. So we took a look as a budget committee. We took a look at our budgets did a comparison from 2009, 2010, and now into 2011. And in 2009, we were at about 94.7 million for our budget. And then in 2010, we reduced, we went down to about 94 million, 94.2 million. So we had actually cut out about 483,000 that
Yes.
particular year. This year, combined with some of the projects that we've been working on long-term, like some of the consolidations and some of the cost-saving measures that we've been working on for a few years have actually come into fruition for the 2011 budget, which was great. A lot of hard work and a lot of effort was put into those programs. But also we offered the retirement incentive,
Correct. Right.
which New York State was offering. So this year we were able to bring the budget down for 2011 from 94.2 now down to 92.7, which is a $1.46 million
Right.
reduction in the overall budget, which this is what we need to do as
Absolutely,
much
yeah.
as we can each year
Right.
in order to bring our budgets in line and be able to handle things under difficult financial it's a difficult financial situation. We all know that. The economy has been extremely tough, and I think things are improving, but it's slow. It's a slow process. And by continually reducing where we can and generating more revenue and working on all of our other financial issues, we're progressing, in a positive manner, which is what we need to do. The general fund, Craig, maybe you and Chris can talk a little bit about what the general fund is composed of.
We pretty much, our budgets are pretty much set up, I always call it 3 sections, basically. You have your general fund, and then you have your special districts, which are the landfill, Pure Waters, Latham Water. And I consider each one of them a separate little fund also, but it's broken up in 2 different areas. General fund basically consists of all your administrative offices, such as your office, the Comptroller's office, Attorney's office, Human Resources, and so on. It also has a historian, and for us, we have the Prine House in that also. Parks and Recreation, Youth Services and Senior Resources, Police, Fire Services, EMS, and Emergency Management, and Justice. Your DPW and Engineering and Building Department and Planning are in there. And again, as I said, the Supervisor, Tax, and Tax Clerk. Or
Town clerk.
The other funds, and that's basically where your tax dollars go to. Okay, that's basically the nuts and bolts of running the town. Your special districts or other funds consist of the highway fund, the library, and the landfill, Latham Water, and Pure Waters. Pure Waters is basically the sewer district. People kind of get them confused with clean water and pure water.
Right.
Your special districts have their own revenues. For example, the water department gets a portion of their revenue from water usage, which you get your little card in the
Right.
mail, fill it out and send it back, and then you pay based on your amount of usage. And Pure Waters is based on a sewer roll, which is on your tax bill, which is separate from the general fund.
So, although these are other funds outside of the general fund, and we also have the special districts, the only ones that are in the other fund category that actually collect other fees are water and Pure Waters.
Yes.
And landfill for your
landfill.
And landfill for landfill
for your
fees.
tipping fees and
Right.
things like that.
Right.
Okay. All right.
And a
So,
lot of those are, as Chris said, the landfill has fees, and that's pretty much where all it comes from. Now, the library, up until this year, it was taking a portion of property tax and sales tax. because of the volatility of the sales tax. If we don't collect as much sales tax as we budgeted, then the library has to cut back somewhere. So Chris came up with the idea, let's take the sales tax, put it in the general fund completely, let the library just basically work on the tax dollars. So it didn't make that big of a difference to the taxpayers because all we did was reallocate the sales tax portion back to the general fund and then bring that portion of property tax back over. So now, if we don't collect as much sales tax as we anticipate, the library won't be detrimental to them. It'll be, the onus will be on the general fund for that.
So it actually makes the funds for the library secure.
Absolutely.
And one of the things that's interesting when we look at other municipalities, other towns, cities, villages, to see how they operate, because it's important to know what's going on around us. And most of the areas that have the libraries are separate. They're separate tax for their residents,
Right.
so it's an added cost. For us, there's no extra cost. It's in our property tax for the town of Colonie. So it's really,
as we'll talk about in a little while, when we compare tax rates from other municipalities, we'll explain to you what's in ours and what's in others. But you're 100% correct. In most communities, the library fund is separate, and it's a separate tax line under. In our budget, it represents about $2.5 million of property, which is primarily done by property tax. There is some in there for people that don't return their books on time and copies. And that represents approximately 43 cents per thousand of the town's tax rate.
So I think, I guess, our thinking was to make sure that the funds for the library were secure and safe, because one thing we've learned over the last year or two is we certainly can't predict or control the economy. And as all municipalities are affected, we are affected as well. And so we've got to make sure that our dollars go to where our taxpayers are going to get the most use of. So,
unfortunately, a good portion of the revenue for any municipality is uncontrollable. We don't have any control over it.
That's right. When we look at expenditure decreases, because we have decreased over the past 3 years, for 2009, 10, and now going into 11, we continue to decrease, as we've discussed. And the expenditures, all of the funds are basically composed of our salaries, our capital items, which are our big projects through Department of Public Works, big equipment.
Yeah, mostly equipment, and that's in there is
like, say, a new dump truck for
Exactly,
the highway department, something like that.
Then you run into your insurance, and then your debt service if you borrow money.
And then our operations.
Yes.
And in all of those categories, we have decreased the amount, again, for 2011. So, again, that's another success story that we're really happy about, especially in these difficult economic times. What's interesting, when we look at the expenditures, during our presentation, we did a pie chart. So just as if you were at home and dividing up a pie, maybe some people get a little bit bigger piece, and some people get a little smaller piece, depending on their appetites. It's the same thing with the expenditures. There are different categories, and the percentage is different. And the highest percentage of our expenditures are salaries.
Correct.
And then the next would be operations. And then the next are our payroll taxes and benefits. And it goes on to, again, separate those other items like insurance and capital items, things like that. We have also, over the last few years, we've reduced the amount that we put towards capital items.
Yes.
So that we could help to spread it out over a longer term and only purchase what we absolutely need. And so that's helped us to
you realize
maintain.
a short-term benefit from that because your debt service goes down. But when you really appreciate it is in the long term, because some of these projects will be 10 to 20 years long. That debt service will be spread out for 20 years, so the administration that's here 10 years from now will reap the benefits that we've done in this time.
And again, looking at the expenditures, you can break it down even further by going into each area. And the library, this is where we're filming Colonie Connect from. It's about 3%. And then you have all of your other areas. Public safety has certainly been identified as one of our top priorities, and once again, it's paying off. We are, again, for the second year in a row, the safest community of our size, which is a population. The population has to be over 75,000 for this particular award, and we came out #1 as the safest community of our size in the nation. So 2 years in a row, that is just phenomenal that we were able to accomplish that. But I know Chief Steve Hyder and myself and all of us, as we discuss why are we such a safe community, and it's because we all take part in ensuring that we maintain that high level of services in the area of public safety. We work with our employees, we work with our residents, we work with our youth, our seniors. We have good relationships with our school districts. We maintain programs that, they do have a cost to them, but they're proactive, and in a sense that the payback is certainly worth it.
And it really is a major accomplishment when you think that we're right in the center of 3 large cities that do have some issues.
Yes, and we actually we've received correspondence from people in other states where our news actually made other states regarding that particular award, so you can see just how big of a deal it is. So we're really proud of that fact. Absolutely. As well as our EMS has received a lot of awards. That again has been one of our priorities in that public safety area, to make sure that our people are taken care of when they have medical needs, and our people are doing a great job there. So all the way around, we've got a lot of things that are in our whole pie here of our expenditures, but we can see exactly where our tax dollars are going. You know, we have a 5-year paving program that began this year. It went well. That will continue on, and that's where our dollars go to when we're fixing our roads. We have our recreation programs, which we haven't cut any services or programs, so we've done well there. And again, in the area of, we don't often think of our pure waters, our sewer systems, and our water systems as being something that we talk about on a daily basis, but when we stop and think of where would we be without them. Right. So they certainly, again, earn their money there and do well for the town with the services they provide. So we can clearly see from these charts just where our money is going. Right. And again, this is something that people can take a look at on our website. Salaries and wages. We had talked about how we offered the incentive for the retirement, so maybe we could talk a little bit about that?
Actually, for municipalities, your biggest expense is your salaries. I mean, most municipalities are service-oriented, and that comes from your personnel. As you said, ours is approximately 44% of our budget consists of salaries. This year, we reduced our budget in salaries from $39.1 million in 2010 down to about $37.9, or about a $1.1 million drop. We eliminated 37 full-time positions through either attrition or the reduction from the early retirement. That was one of the reasons why our budget was a little iffy this year, because the tentative changed so much from the tentative to the preliminary, because most people that had the early retirement incentive had a certain time frame to choose when they wanted to get out. And unfortunately, our budget, when it was required to be permitted as a tentative or presented as a tentative, was much earlier than the deadline. So It did change quite a bit. These, by reducing our salaries by 1.1 million, that also includes all the negotiated contracts of the percentage increases that were in there. So it is a major accomplishment, and I think it's a credit to you that we did eliminate these positions, but we really haven't had any layoffs. And that's one thing that would hurt the economy. You know, I know you tried very hard to avoid that, and I think we've done a good budget to do this.
We've kept everybody working, and for our community, you know, that was a priority to try to keep everyone working. And the fact is, you know, there are different philosophies on what affects the economy, and our employees, the majority of our employees, they live in town, their children go to our schools, they've raised their families here, they shop in our town, they have purchased homes in our town, and these are all great things that we want to be able to maintain. And obviously, if people are out of work, some of those things have to go, and people have to sell their homes, whatever, and move away. And I think it's best for everyone all the way around if we can maintain the positions, maintain people working. It's a good way to go. And again, we've eliminated the positions through attrition, and we've consolidated some of the jobs, which we're asking our employees to do more with less, and they certainly have, they are meeting those expectations and doing very well with that. We've found ways where there were things that were being duplicated, and we look to, you know, streamline some of those processes so that we, you know, can do our jobs and do them well, and we're finding out, you know, that we can make these moves, and the results are good.
A couple of the consolidations that we did was we put building department in with fire services.
That's in the process now.
Right. That's
Right.
we're you know, we're currently working with both those departments and making it seamless so that it blends in well. That was one of the departments. Those two departments have very close functions together, so it made sense.
Yes.
And a number of consultants and department heads alike suggested that that be done too. And another one that we did was youth services with recreation, because again, a lot of the programs that each run seem to meld together that would make sense to be consolidated into one. And basically, by doing just those consolidations, we saved over $400,000.
And that's a substantial amount of money. And that's, you know, these consolidations take time to do, and again, the opportunity arises through attrition or through the incentive that New York State gave. And so we are able to maintain the same level of services with less staff and not interfere with services at all. What we're finding out now as we're finalizing everything with building and fire, those two systems together are typically, in the majority of municipalities, they are one as we speak. But you know, we consolidate into a building department with a fire services division. We're finding out in just a short period of time as we're working on things, we will be doing some cross-training, and the end result is we will actually have more people trained to do certain things than we did before. So that's a good thing, and we will still have all of the services that we have. Our fire services department is a little unique because they do a lot of community services. They work collaboratively with our 12 fire departments who actually fight our fires, our volunteer fire departments who do an outstanding job. And we do have something unique in the town, which is a municipal training facility. And our fire services chief, Pete Latanzio, for the last year and a half has been working on grants with Assemblyman Riley and Assemblyman McEnany and the District Attorney David Soers have given us grants for additions to this particular facility that is going to make it a premier facility I think not only in the state, but in within many states. And actually, we're predicting that we will have a high demand of groups that are going to want to come to Colonie to use our facility. So it'll be revenue generating and it will be state of the art. And we're also taking a look at opportunities for, even at the college level, there are some programs that offer fire training programs to become firemen or things like that, EMS workers, even police officers. And we're looking to also, open our programs to them so they can take a look at what we can do at the training facility. So it's going to allow us to spend more time with things like that as well. So we have plenty for everyone to do, but because our building inspectors are also receive the training that fire inspectors would receive, we'll actually have more people to do inspections, which is a big portion of the job. But then we will also have we have our investigators, fire investigators, and again, as we said, our training facility program. So there are a lot of good things that are going on there, as well as in Parks and Rec and Youth. And just those two areas, it's over $400,000, as Craig said. So that's we need to keep doing that so that we can maximize, our dollars and tax dollars, as well as, good conditions, for our employees as well. Chris, maybe you could talk a little bit about some of our budget challenges, because it's certainly, our budget process is not easy.
No.
And
we started so early.
We do have challenges,
Right.
for 2011, like all municipalities.
Right.
Maybe just touch upon a few of those.
Absolutely. I think one of the biggest ones you've already touched on is trying to right-size government without having a drastic impact on the taxpayers, but keeping the services for the taxpayers. And that was a real struggle that the committee had this year, as we've had in other years, with the economic downturn continuing longer than any of us have thought it would. That still continues and plays heavy on our minds during the budget process. Other things like continuing health insurance costs, premiums up 15, 20% every year, keeping on that trend for 2011. Those are increased costs that you have to reduce the budget here in order to increase the budget for those costs, where hopefully the hiring freezes that we've done and not replacing the 37 positions, that will help in the long run to reduce those costs, not necessarily for 2011, but as Craig has mentioned, administrations several years from now that aren't having to pay those costs in addition to the retirees that we still pay for based on our union agreements. The third thing that all municipalities, we hear from the county down to the villages, are the sizable retirement system contributions. Yes. Because of the economic downturn, the state retirement system has passed a 39% increase on to just about every municipality that we really don't have any control over. It's one of the, almost everybody uses the word unfunded mandate, and that's exactly what that is.
And I think when you think about it, when you say it fast, 39%, but when you put it in perspective and you see just how much that is, I know for a fact that all municipalities that we deal with are struggling with that.
Yeah, that was about, I believe, if Greg remember, it was about 1.2 million. I think, in addition to the 2011 budget.
And that's why it's so important when the opportunity is there to work on right-sizing the government. And that was a suggestion we got 3 years ago from our auditors.
Right.
That needs to be your priority. And so we're staying on that path step by step while keeping our employees, working. Craig, maybe you can give us a summary of the 2011 budget?
Yeah, as we said, from 2010 2011, our budget is $92.7 million. It's a decrease of about $1.46 million from 2010. That equates into about a tax rate increase of about 20 cents per thousand.
Okay.
What that means is for a median home assessed value at around $150,000, 2010, the tax that you paid then was about $425. 2011, it'll be about $455, which is an increase of about $30, which will equate to about $2.50 per month.
So on a median price home in the town of Colonie, the increase, we're talking about a $30 yearly difference.
Correct.
Okay, which I think that's, we've been able to do this budget quite well. Most of the surrounding municipalities, what I've been reading is the budget increases yearly they've been hovering around, $90, $80, $90 to over $100 per year. So we haven't reduced any services, we've kept everyone working, and we still have been able to keep that tax rate low for our residents, which was our goal.
If you carry that over into comparisons to other communities around us, if you take the 2010 tax rate comparison and take an average value home of $200,000, in the town of Colonie, if you were assessed at $200,000, you will be paying approximately $379 for the tax bill for 2011. If you were living in Guilderland, it would equate to about $430. Niskayuna would be $663, and all the way up to, I believe, East Greenbushes are a little over $1,000.
Okay, so for the same priced house, it costs a lot more money in other communities. And when we looked at the comparison, we compared to a lot of other municipalities, also offer a lot more services with our low rate. So that's important to understand. But we were happy that we could maintain that tax rate where it is. Overall, I think for 2011, I think we would all agree that we put our best efforts forth as a committee, as a town, to create a budget that really is the best that we could possibly put together for our taxpayers. And our efforts were towards eliminating wasteful spending, streamlining operations, reducing the size of government, while maintaining an excellent level of services for our residents and our businesses. And I think we accomplished those goals. I appreciate the work that you both did as members of the Budget Committee and everyone else on the committee, as well as all of our departments that worked with us to get to the actual budget for 2011. So we're at the end of the show here. We're out of time. But again, thank you very much, Craig and Chris, for being here today. And again, our residents can see our 2011 budget on our website.
Correct.
Okay, so with that, I will say thank you, and thank you for tuning in to Colonie Connect.